What's up, y'all? It's your man's Jam, back with a jam session here on the JAMPOD. This week, we're going to get back to the basics on what this podcast is all about, and that's to journey across media. We're going to focus on weekly comic book pickups, some gaming news, and the main two topics of this week's episode, Star Wars Skeleton Crew and Silo Season 2. So y'all make sure to tap in and let's nerd out together. So we're starting it off a little different this week. First and foremost, going with the weekly comic book pickups, just to kind of get them out of the way. As like I said, I'll be doing this every week for the most part. I will not be talking about every specific creative team. Firstly, because it's just a lot of them. But also, secondly, I would rather wait till I'm focusing on those comic books or like having a deep dive into those comics. Like I do with the shows and games and things like that. So this is just the weekly comic book pickups. So let's dive into what I grabbed this week. Alphabetical order, starting off with Absolute Wonder Woman number 4. Been loving that. Black Canary, Best of the Best, number 3. Blade Red Band, number 4, which is so graphic. Detective Comics, 1093 or 1093. The Flash, number 17. Green Arrow, number 20. Iron Man, number 4. Mystique, number 4, which, by the way, I've never thought I would be reading a Mystique comic, but it's fun, and I'm really enjoying it. Phoenix, number 7. Superman, number 22. This one is probably my favorite comic that I grabbed this week, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Naruto number 2. So it's a nice collaboration comic that they got going on right now from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Naruto. It's such a fun, good time, man. I'm enjoying it. Ultimate Spider-Man number 13. The Uncanny X-Men number 9. Void Rivals number 16. Wolverine Revenge number 4, which I actually got the Red Band edition, so I'm reading the Red Band edition. And then last but not least, Wonder Woman 17. So those are all of my comics that I picked up this week. Some we will be probably diving in deeper with my guy like Den of the Dead from the alternate timeline. Some are reading for a good time, just to have a good time. I might like the character, and this will be my first time reading a comic book of the character or a solo, like Mystique, for example. So, really rocking with the weekly comic book pickups. As you guys know, I read a lot, man. I spend almost between I want to say $50 to $100 a week on comic books, man. I collect, I read, and it's been a really great time doing that. So I've been doing it since now 2018, collecting. I've been reading since I was a kid. So this is going to be a thing. This is the segment, and we are done with our comic book segment. So now I want to talk to y'all about some gaming news that just dropped this week. So let's go dive into that. Now we got some gaming news this week, and I want to say it's kind of major. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Nothing too detailed, but we did get our first look at the Nintendo Switch 2. They showcased it in I want to say a minute or two video, maybe a 2 or 3 minute video. Just what it'll look like, some of the features and connectability things. It is going to have a full Nintendo Direct on April 2nd, which there was a lot of discourse on social media about that with the way the dates are done here in America versus in other countries. But that's neither here nor there. April 2nd is the date for the Nintendo Direct, so it will be a deep dive into what the Nintendo Switch 2 will look like. By the way, some Nintendo Switch games will be compatible. It said and they mentioned, which I'm curious which Nintendo Switch games will be compatible. like if my Pokemon games are gonna be compatible, or if like Smash will be compatible, things like that. Um, but it looked cool. It looked good. I think the best thing that I found of it was that instead of it having to connect like with a slide on for the controllers, it can just snap on and off. And so I think that's going to be very interesting. I know there was also some conversations online about how that's not a great design for a system or handheld system. I think it could actually work, to be honest with you. So I'm looking forward to it. Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct will be April 2nd once again, and we'll probably be focusing on that when the time comes on the pod here. Moving along, though, we got a trailer and our first look with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero's DLC for superheroes. So all of the characters basically being released for early access for people and coming January 25th for everybody else. Um, Everybody looks awesome. I mean, Gamma 1 and 2, phenomenal. Piccolo goes from, I think, base form to unlock potential to then Orange Piccolo, and he can go from Orange Piccolo to Giant Orange Piccolo, so that's great. And then Gohan from Superhero goes from base with the glasses to Super Saiyan to Ultimate and then Beast. And you can only go to Beast from Ultimate. So that was a very interesting detail. And I feel like that kind of makes sense considering the way the movie played out. You know what I mean? But yeah, great, looked great. I know some of my boys are already playing as the characters. They've been like, yo, you need to get on. I unfortunately didn't have early access, so I'm waiting till January 25th. So I'll be going crazy on my Sparking Zero streams when I get to play those. My guy Orange Piccolo, I am so excited. Piccolo is one of my favorite characters in Dragon Ball, so I'm looking forward to it. And then last but not least, we got a full gameplay trailer of Phantom Blade Zero. This is looking absolutely insane. I've never seen fighting mechanics in a game like this. It reminds me so much of like a Black Myth Wukong type esque game, but they're saying it's not a Souls-like game, which is very interesting to me. My guy Dennis from the alternate timeline made a really good comment. He said that it reminds him of like Ninja Gaiden, and I could see that a lot actually after he said that. So I'm looking forward to this game. I mentioned it, before. I really want to see what they do with this game. It's gonna be one of those games I know that's gonna stress me out like Black Myth Wukong did. But I think I'm gonna have a great time with it. So we got that Phantom Blade Zero trailer. It is on YouTube. I think it's in the Game Awards YouTube. It's also on PlayStation's YouTube. So y'all make sure to go check that out. But without further ado, let's talk about the TV shows that we are here to talk about. The main focus is the Star Wars Skeleton Crew and Silo Season 2. So let's start with Star Wars Skeleton Crew. A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, Disney Plus gave us a banger with Skeleton Crew. Let's talk about it, gang. The story and plot was just fun. A great fun time. It's got a lot of comparisons to the Goonies. I feel like it had some E.T. in there. It just was a fun, good time. And it really made me feel like this is a way that kids can get into Star Wars without having to dive into the whole lore and mythos story chronologically or release what date order, like however you watch it. But this was one of those shows that I feel like, yo, I could let my niece watch. Like, she can dive into Star Wars this way. The way they played on the Jedi tropes, things like that. Like, just an all-around great story. I remember talking with Dennis from the alternate timeline and joking, like, the whole idea of them getting lost in space. They find this ship, and then the ship takes them out into space. It doesn't have really, like, right coordinates. And I'm joking with him. I'm like, man, this is Star Wars. Their technology is so far in advance. Like, I feel like that was the one plot hole to me. Like, you mean to tell me, like, that the spaceship it can't traject, like, its last coordinates and stuff? And I thought, but you know what? It's still believable because it's Star Wars. Like anything can happen in Star Wars. Like some systems can malfunction, whatever. But I loved how the whole plot story was just them lost in space trying to make their way back home. And it was a good time. It was a good time while we went through this journey. I think some of the story was paced very well, like just different planets that they go to, and experiencing different things that they, as kids, were sheltered from, or not just being kids that they were sheltered from, but the planet that they were on. Spoiler alert, was essentially a mystery. It was a treasure planet, if you will, and they were hidden from the rest of the galaxy. So to see them go out into the galaxy and explore and like look at the galaxy through the lens of kids. Like you're watching Star Wars through the eyes of kids, and it's a different feeling. It almost feels kind of like episode 1, The Phantom Menace, how Anakin was just so blissfully ignorant. He's young, he's doesn't know any better, but he wants to know everything. And that's kind of where the story is with these kids, that they don't know anything about the galaxy, but well, at least the main character, Wim, who is played by Ravi Kabo Conyers, forgive me if I butcher names as always. But the kids just really like, that's another thing. The kids were great acting too. Like, I mean, Wim again played by Ravi, KB played by Kyriana Crater, Fern, who was played by Ryan Kiera Armstrong, and then my guy Neil, who was played by Robert. I forget his last name here, but he he was also like, as just as like the mimicry or the puppetry, like that they had this kid like dressed up like costume wise, like it was good, man. Like these actors were good. Specifically, the characters and Fern, I feel like soared. Now, granted, were the kind of like the main protagonists. If you Wim is the main protagonist. I mean, the kids were all kind of like equal, but Wim was the main protagonist. But they just soared. Wim and Fern, man. Like they really were great acting for like actors for children, man. And that's showing you that they might have a bright future in Hollywood. And then of course Jod, played by Jude Law. He was good. You kind of believe everything that he tells you, like in a sense. Not really like you believe it, but like just his acting is believable. Like, yo, he could be a bad guy. Oh shit, well, he could be a good guy. Like, you just don't really know, and they did it really well with the writing on that characters. Like I said, with the story, and the plot, the writing, acting, everything like was just hitting really well for this show for Star Wars. And then I mean, on top of that, like you have the visuals. Like visually, it's Star Wars. Disney Plus Star Wars to me visually is hitting, bro. Like it's peak. I really enjoy it. I really appreciate it. They had some scenes that were just fun scenes. Like a really good like shot scene. I thought it was a fun time. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It hit for me. And I think another thing visually that they got to kind of do things differently with was I think this was one of the first. No, I don't want to say it was the first time, but I seen some behind the scenes stuff where how they like basically used like stop motion for like and CGI and other effects, for some of the scenes. And I think that's one of the things I think Star Wars does just very, very well since the original days with George Lucas is that, the puppetry, like, and like props and costumes and characters and makeup and costume designs, all of that stuff, combined with like stop motion and visual effects, like that to me is what makes it visually like crazy, like unique. It makes it like hit very different on a visual aspect. And I think that it just does wonders for the overall like I don't know, Star Wars galaxy, Star Wars universe. I would love to see more studios and more like I don't know, entertainment studios to try that. Like I would love more you know, puppetry, stop motion, things like that. It would be nice. And I think one of my favorite, directors and writers, actually does that. James Gunn, a lot of his stuff. I think he broke the Guinness World Record for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with how much like props he had or something like that. And so prosthetics, I think it was. But that's neither here nor there. I just think this show was great overall. From what you can like rate it on, like grade it on, what it was all great. The writing, the acting, the visuals. It was fun. It was a great, fun show. And I think the impact it has on Star Wars right now, man, Star Wars needs a win, right? Like, I feel like people were genuinely, like, calm about this show because they knew not to have crazy expectations, but also because they're kids. Like, you're not going to just disrespect and degrade and disregard and all of the, and, you know, be toxic how Star Wars is to kids. You feel me? Like, and I think that plays a very big impact on it. On top of the fact of, yo, the show was good. Like, it was fire. Like, it was a banger. Like, I think because of that, like, the toxic community that we've known from Star Wars over these past few years, or I don't want to say even just few years, for a while now, like, because of their, excuse me, their expectations, I think this show had not anything to do with that. Like, they couldn't really speak negatively on this show. It was just a good time. It's kids. We're having fun. And I think the impact it had for Star Wars, or has on Star Wars, is that we needed a W. We needed a Star Wars W. We've been having, which I, again, you guys know, based off last episodes, but I've mentioned how I love the Acolyte. It was one of my favorite things from Star Wars ever. But the community with Star Wars has just been so like iffy and as of these past like few years, and so projects that are really good, like, they get canceled or they flop or they get ridiculed because people just don't want to see representation, or they don't want to see things that aren't nostalgia. Like, they don't want growth. They don't want to move past certain things and things like that. And so we get a lot of shows or movies in Star Wars that just don't do well, or they may do well like box office or budget or streaming, but like the overall general opinion or public is just negative. And I think this was a good win. Like, we needed again, us as fans of Star Wars, we needed a W, and I think that's what this impact for Skeleton Crew, or for Star Wars, has given us a W. Um, if I'm being quite honest, my favorite episode was episode 5. You have a lot to learn about pirates. I thought that was a very well paced episode. First and foremost, I love that it was a hot springs episode, like if it was an anime. Like, they literally had a hot springs episode. It was a literal hot springs episode, and that was fun to me. But also, we got to dive into some of we got to see aliens and some other characters, of course, but we got to dive a little bit into the lore of pirates in Star Wars, right? Like, this infamous pirate that Jod respects, and mostly all the other pirates respect. Like, we got to see his treasure room, and like we get to see a lightsaber, and like, you know, it was just cool. Like, the mystery of how to even get there, and the traps, and like how they had to sacrifice gold or whatever to get in there. Like, that, all of that like mystery aspect of Star Wars for me is what I genuinely love the most about Star Wars. I think every aspect of Star Wars, no matter what it is, has mystery, and that's what I think does well for this like sci-fi fantasy genre, is the mystery behind it. I just love mystery. So that's why I think that episode 5 is also my favorite episode, because it didn't just have like the fun, feel good times of the hot springs, but it had like the mystery of the pirates and things like that. And so that's definitely my favorite episode. But my favorite character now is probably the robot, SM-33, SM-33, voiced by Nick Frost. He was fun, man. It was a cool way to see a robot pirate. Like, you know, it's not a concept that's not been done before, but it was just cool to see it in Star Wars. Like, I had a good time with it. Aye, aye, Captain. Like, it was just fun, man. That's my favorite character. If I had to choose after him, though, of course, I'm one of those guys. I'm always going for the protagonist, the main character. So I loved Wim. But I also like Neil a lot. Neil was just, the only alien child, technically, right? Like the only alien looking child out of the group. So he was cool, man. It was fun. And I loved how like timid and like caring he was. It was a good kid, man. But my favorite character interaction or like character moment was actually Wim and KB when Wim basically had to save her life. I thought that was fantastic, man. Like the way that they showcased emotion, how detailed or deep this story could get with kids. Like she basically died. Like she almost died and Wim saved her life. And she even said that. She's like, I guess you would have thought like saving someone's life would be more dramatic or something like that, she said. And I think like that moment alone was just one of the best in the whole show, if I'm being quite honest. Um, if I had to review this, you guys know I like to do reviews every once in a blue now, and I think I'm getting back into them for real, like in a swing of things, really grading things or rating things, scaling things, however you want to call it. But if I've given this a review, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I think it was a solid show overall. I think the only reason I wouldn't say it was a masterpiece was like because it's you want more action, of course, as an action guy, and that's just me. And obviously it's for kids, so they're not gonna go crazy with it. But there is some things that I could have wanted a little bit better. I know some episodes we're just feeling like a lot of detail in it that didn't need detail or didn't need things that to be explained. Like some shows or some writing, you could just kind of see it with the characters or see it in passing, or you get the context clues. And I feel like with the show, because it's a kids show, they were like over explaining a lot to talk to kids, right? So that's just kind of one of the main things that I feel like brought it down for me. That's where it's at. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. We also want to talk about the ending. I want to talk about the finale here and how they kind of left it open, right, for interpretation. Like, I mean, you don't see Jod get kidnapped. You don't really see what happens after the rebellion or the rebel alliance comes, like the X fighters when they come. You don't really see what happens with At Adden. And I kind of like that they left it up for interpretation because they might give it a season 2. Like, I feel like that's something that they could give a potential season 2. And if they don't, because the story is all about them getting lost in space, I could see them having these characters be implemented in other ways throughout Star Wars history. Like maybe, Wim grows up to be an X fighter. Like things like that. You know what I'm saying? Not to get neither super detailed, but we don't know what happened with Jod. Jod, like I said, didn't, get in handcuffs. Does that mean he got away? Like, did he escape? You don't really know. So would they do a season 2? I'm not sure. I could see them doing a season 2, but I could also see the pushback. Like, hey, like we told our complete story, and maybe and also based off the Acolyte, it depends on how well this show is perceived. It seems like it's doing well, but I don't really know the streaming numbers. So that's neither here nor there with it. But theories is I want to say it's gonna not be a season 2, but more so, like I said, characters will probably be implemented in other areas of the Star Wars universe. That's kind of what I'm assuming or believing. But that's really what we got for the Skeleton Crew. My thoughts, my review overall on the Skeleton Crew from Star Wars. I want to now talk about Silo Season 2. I want to stop there first and tell you I've never read any of the books from Silo. What I think they're like Dust and other. They're like it's a trilogy, but I've never read any of the books. But the show is one of my favorite things on television that I want to start reading the books. It's that good. So let's dive into Silo season 2 here. Story was really good. Apparently, I was doing some research, and the story season 1 and 2 is the first book of that trilogy. So, and I see that the way this story was, or season 2 seemed like it was written. The pacing felt very slow. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It felt very, very slow this season. Like I felt like season 1 had so much going on that they got, I mean, I never read the book again, but it felt like they got more than half of the book, the first book done in season one, whereas season two, and I could be wrong, again, don't know, but season two felt like they were just grasping at straws a lot of the way. Um, that it just was I think it was the pacing for me, because the writing, like, again, when things was happening, it's my favorite show on, one of my favorite shows on television, and when things were happening, like, it was happening, like, but I felt like a lot of the time scenes were just dragging, like, dragged. I didn't need all of this extra stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it was so much of that, like, scenes just dragging, and that's what really ruined it for me, was the pace. Again, loved the season, so I don't want to say ruined it, but ruined the pacing for me. The story, really great. We got Juliet's character played, or excuse me, Rebecca Ferguson's character, who plays Juliet. Juliet Nichols. She is out in the apocalypse world. She got out of the silo in season one, and she's now walking, and she makes it to this silo that's next to her. So she gets out and she sees there's like 50 silos. And so she's running out of air or something like that. So she makes it to this next silo. But as she's getting there, she sees the silos open, and like everybody is running out of, like, there was dead bodies of people running out of it, like running out of the silo. And so it starts with her going into that second silo, and not the one she's from, but the new silo, and she gets trapped there essentially, and she meets Solo, aka, we find out later, who is Jimmy, played by Steve Zahn. He has been there since he was a child, so he's been trapped in there. He's a child, and that silo essentially died. Let's just say what it is. I don't want to ruin too much, because that's the whole thing about Silo, the show. It's the mystery behind it. So if I start getting into spoilers, we're here to talk about the show, but we start getting into spoilers, it ruins the experience and that journey you would have watching it. So, long story short, like I've said, she gets to this silo, and everybody in that silo is dead, except Jimmy and some others. And the whole aspect of this season was her trying to get back to her silo, because she found out what happened to this silo. And that's the first half. That's really the slowest secondary story. It should be the first story, right? Because Juliet Nichols is the main character. But that story with her is like the B plot, it feels like. It's like the side story, because the main plot, or what feels like is going on in the main plot, is what everything is happening in the silo that she's from. And it's basically starting the rebellion. That's the best way I can explain it. The rebellion is starting in that, with mechanical versus, IT and the rest of the silo, and, judicial. And so, story was great overall. I love, again, the mystery. Again, I told you guys earlier, I'm a big mystery guy. The story was great. I just felt like it was paced. And again, maybe it wasn't, because this is what people were expecting if you've read the book. But for me, it felt like a lot of things were dragging. Um, the acting, though, man, people were acting. Like, there's so many actors and actresses I could name. But they were really, really acting this season. One character I'm really fascinated by is Common's character, Robert, who plays like the judge now. And Common, man, I think, we all know Common's a great rapper. We all know Common's a great actor. But I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition as an actor. Specifically this role. Like, he is very imposing. He is very, like, I don't know, man. It's just he's there, bro. Like, he's him. You feel his presence. Like, he feels scary. Like, he's intimidating, bro. He's very imposing. He's very intimidating. But I would say my favorite character is Lucas Kyle, played by Avi Nash, for this season at least. My favorite character overall is Juliet Nichols, the main character. But my guy, again, Lucas Kyle, played by Avi Nash. He was my guy this season. I just loved seeing all the mystery he was trying to uncover about what happened with the silo. And I think he was hitting with the acting too. Like, he's so, like, I don't know, mild mannered, or I guess way is the best way to put it. But it's like it's such a like touch and go type situation. Like he could take it to a 10 is what I'm saying. Like so I really appreciate it. He was my favorite character this season. But my favorite like moment, character interaction, or like between two characters was probably between Juliet and Solo Jimmy, and like my guy Solo, who's aka again Jimmy. Their interaction at the end, like where they finally hug, that made like my whole moment right there. Like I got teary eyed and everything. It was like a good, because Jimmy's been sheltered and he doesn't really know like people that way. Like it was a whole thing. Like he doesn't know people, and Juliet like basically would have had her brother. Like it was like a whole character moment, and it made me a little teary eyed. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. That's where like it hit for me. Like it was I was like, and that was like again towards the end of this show. I think it was like the season finale. But I think that was my favorite character moment between the two. If I had to review this, as I've been saying, I'm gonna review things now. So if I gotta give it a review, this season of Silo, season 2, I would say it's a 3.5 out of 5. And I'm gonna be honest, I love the show overall. Like the show overall to me is like a 5 out of 5. Like the whole concept, just everything about it, 5 out of 5. If I had to be critical or nitpick or like very hypercritical, it would be a 4.5 out of 5, right? Like something. But to me, it's a masterpiece. Again, this season just is a 3.5 out of 5, and I'm pretty sure my math isn't mathing for those that do reviews and critics and all of that stuff. But that's just where I'm at with it right now. 3.5 out of 5 for this season, because that pacing, guys, like it was hard, like it was so bad. And you guys know I hate to talk like negative about anybody's art, like anybody's craft, whether anybody's anything like that they do, right? Because I'm a creative myself, but and again, the show is great. The season was great. It was just the pacing. That's what really brings it down that bad for me, like that notch for me. Still a passing grade. We still got a passing grade, but yeah, it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me, just based off the pacing. The visuals, I will tell y'all this, Apple TV does not miss when it comes to the visuals. I think Apple Television has the best visuals on television, like the best for not just television, but movies, everything. I think Apple TV has the best visuals. The way stuff is shot, the best. Followed up by probably like Max, HBO and Max, right? Like those will probably be the secondary to me. But Apple TV, in my humble opinion, has the best visuals. And Silo is so damn gorgeous. Like I don't understand how they make darks and shadows like look bright and like visually good. Like cause the show, again, you're in darkness, you're in shadows. It's a silo, most of it, right? But you can see it. It's not like you gotta turn the brightness up on your TV or your monitors or something. It's visually crispy. So shout out to Apple TV, because they do no wrong when it comes to the visuals. My season 3 thoughts, because we obviously know it's getting a season 3. I think they said it's getting a season 3 and 4, and they're shooting those back to back. So we won't hopefully have to wait too much longer. Once we get season 3 and it's over, we won't have to wait too much longer before we get season 4. But I need to talk to y'all about that finale, because I was not, bro. Look, I expected Juliet to get back, and like, yeah, the way it happened with her, like, and the mayor, like, I expected kind of that. Like, I was like, all right, that's probably how it ends on a cliffhanger, like her getting back. I got that. I was cool with that. But when it takes that ending and then transitions to something that was the past, like before the post-apocalyptic world and everybody was in the silos, like I had no clue, no theories, no nothing. Like I was not speculating that, gang. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, like that blew my mind. Like I was in here going crazy. Immediately I was doing my Googles. I was Googling like, yo, is this how the first book ends? Is this what happens in the story? Like, when are we getting season 3? I was going bananas just trying to find information. And so apparently the writer of the book did say that the show, season 2's show, like finale ends slightly different than the first book ends. So blew my mind. I'm very, very, very intrigued to where they go in season 3 with the way they ended season 2. Um, my thoughts really, I really don't know because again, it looked like Juliet Nichols and the mayor just got torched to death. I'm pretty sure what winds up happening is, when you have a room that gets on fire, probably have that lower level that you can be underneath the flames. I'm pretty sure she just ducked, like laid down on the floor with it. Like they both just laid down, like she tackled him. So I'm pretty sure they're like on the floor, like just below, low, like just low enough to not get caught by, like get torched by the flames. I'm assuming, but could be wrong. I have again no theories or recollection of what that actual finale scene was. But what I will say is what I think season 3 is going to be predominantly about is Juliet trying to stop this rebellion. And I actually think she's going to have pushback. Yeah, they all love that Juliet Nichols lived, but that's my like theory is that she's actually going to have pushback on what's going on in that, you know what I'm saying, like that silo. Like she's gonna be like, yo, we can't go outside, and then people are gonna be like, nah, you was outside, why can't we go outside? You know what I'm saying? I'm going outside. And I think that's where it's gonna be in this next season. And I think that's why they're shooting it back to back, because I think that's gonna be the season 3, and then season 4 will be like the conclusion to all of that rebellion stuff. That's just my theories, but that's neither here nor there. That is all I got for y'all though when it comes to Silo season 2. It's really like literally my favorite show. One of my favorite shows on television. Like I drastically wait and I'm not patient either. I'm not patiently waiting. I'm like itching, like I need it. I need that season 3 badly. I cannot wait for it. I really hope y'all check that show out. I've been telling everybody, all my friends, family, people online, like, yo, y'all gotta watch Silo. So this is that pitch, that free promo from me. Go watch Silo. Lastly, before we head out, I know we were only gonna focus on these 2 topics, but I got one news from TVs and movies, mainly TV. I guess TV and movies. We got 2 news. We got our trailer and like our final season coming of the show You on Netflix. The release date gave us a release date is April 24th. I'm looking forward to it. I've been very like invested in You. Not you, but vested in the show You. And I'm finally ready to see it kind of end. I hope Joe does not get a good ending, like he is an evil bad guy at the end of the day. It's kind of like one of those, like Dexter, I can think that's the show. You want the bad guy, like you love the bad guy, he's the main character, but he gotta lose, right? He just has to lose. Um, so we got You season finale or final season coming this April 24th. And then last but not least, we got our official logo of Sonic 4. Looks good, showcases the 4 with pink or rose like Amy Rose. People are saying they might edit it and detail it or, change it up, whatever. But we got our official uh look at Sonic season 4. And I also think we got the release date, if I am not remembering correctly. I'm trying to find out for us now. So let me take a look here. But I do believe we got the Sonic 4 release date. And that is, what is it? I think it's 2027 I've seen. Which is crazy to me, because, like, bro, what do you mean 2027? Like, that's a long time, but, I mean, I guess we all gotta be patient, right? Yeah. That's hard for me. I told y'all, man, like, being patient is really, really not where it's at for me. Like, I guess I'm one of those people that want instant gratification, right? Like, and that's not good, but I do. I really, really want instant gratification. Um, so yeah, they just gonna have to let me live. But got the release date, and Sonic 4 is coming March 19th, 2027. It's a long time for me, gang. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. That's a very, very, very long time. But that is my TV news, TV and movie news, and that's all I got for y'all this week on the Jam Pod. So I wanted to kind of go out with our life section because I didn't touch in that in the beginning this week. Kind of wanted to focus that at the end this time. So let's talk about some life stuff real quick. Before we head out, I wanted to tap in with y'all, as I said, just about life. The reason I didn't do this part as I always do in the beginning is actually because not much has happened since last week for me, or my lady. The only real big thing for us is that my lady actually got a new job that we're both excited for her for. I know she's really ecstatic. So that's like the biggest thing that happened. And then secondarily, or did I use that right? Secondary? I don't know. But the next thing I really wanted to talk to y'all about was I actually learned something new about myself this week. And that was that I like to work with my hands. I like to use my hands, which is probably why I'm a creative. I like to draw. I like to create, the podcast. I like to stream, play video games. I like to actually do artsy stuff. So I think that's why I learned that about myself, is that I like to work with my hands. And I wanted to talk to y'all about that because I think that's the beauty of life, right? That we can always learn new things about ourselves or about the world or whatever, and we can continue to grow. That's just the beauty of life for me. I feel like we all learn new things daily. Of course, that's the whole saying. You learn something new every day, but I think if you can learn something about yourself every day is even taking it even further. And so that's something that I learned this past week. And one of them, really the only thing that happened for me was that I had that epiphany or realization, I really do like working with my hands. And it was because of my job. I'm working with designs and stuff like that. And so I thought that was really, really fascinating, that I genuinely found out something about myself. And again, I think that's the beauty of life. And shout out to my lady because she got a new job. So we're both happy about that. And then I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, man. We are tapped out for the day, or I should say the week. If you like this podcast episode, man, show some love and support. We'll be back next week to actually have a co-host, or I guess I should say a guest. Really more like a guest, but that is my guy, Dennis from the alternate timeline. We are going to talk basically about what we do at the alternate timeline. And then for our main topic of next week, we will dive into a game that has had all of us in a chokehold, Marvel Rivals. So next week, my guy Dennis will be here from the alternate timeline, and we will be talking about Marvel Rivals. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Hope y'all come next time. Y'all be easy. Peace out.